Money Magnet Activator. Today, in our show, My Spiritual GPS, this is about the future of healthcare in the eyes of major faculties. So, what if healthcare is actually designed to treat the patients that are coming to the system? That would be the ideal world as we all want it to be, right? Because we're asking the doctors, the nurses, the healthcare professionals for help. And we are where we are. Whatever it is, whatever disease or illness that you've been experiencing, you are where you are right now. But obviously, the end result is we all want to get better. We all want to heal. We all want to be living our soul purpose. And God wanted us to be in that state so that we can all live a happy, healthy life, contributing to others as well with our gifts and talents. So today, whatever it is that you're going through, this TV show is actually dedicated today to all doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, all of those people in the front line, perhaps experiencing the burden of treating COVID-19 and other sicknesses that are out there, right? It's just the emergency right now is this COVID-19. And how can we support you as our frontliners? Because we've been there ourselves. I am a healthcare professional myself. I'm a physical therapist by trade and now turned human MRI. And I have brought the MEJA faculties to help you really understand that you're not there just to give all your gifts, talents, and energy, but you're also here to be supported. So I'm going to bring in Dr. Zume Zong and Pat Shivland. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Pat.
You did.
And Meja, Dr. Zume Zong is our fearless leader. So I am part of this faculty. I am part of this academy. Dr. Zume Zong, can you please tell us what Meja means? Because there was a post on Facebook. They don't understand what Meja, what does that mean? Is that an acronym? Share with them what that is.
Yes, it's an acronym. It's Medicine Jedi Academy.
Ooh, and what made you name it that way? Why Jedi?
I think our medical professionals, they have a dream to be a hero. Yeah. And they're not just being a doctor, but they also want to have a big dream than curing the disease, but helping this world to be a place that people living in the health and wellness body and life. So, right. And there's a lot of things they're fighting for, not just the disease, but the whole system and how to make things better. And now they're in the pandemic and they felt this more than ever. And I think they want to be having like a Jedi spirit in them.
Yeah, exactly, right? The Jedi spirit, right. And I know Dr. Zume Zong is actually a scientist by profession. She has a PhD and she specializes in immunology and research. So that's her background. So you can see she is very well-versed, very smart, intelligent. If you want to talk to her about research, cellular level, she can talk to you about that. And so towards the end of the show, we would entertain any comments and questions that you have for us as not only healthcare professionals, but also bridging the gap between the science and spirit. So if you have any questions, you can always feel free to post on comment on Human MRI Facebook page, and we would be glad to answer that question. And then Pat Shivland is a nurse, right? She's a nurse and what's a PCC again?
Professional certified coach.
And a professional certified coach. And you're also a grief coach, right? Isn't
yes,
it?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah, so you have many hats. We all wear many hats in this field. So I'm going to start with Dr. Zume. I'm going to ask them questions. And Dr. Zume, I want you to share with us your take on the healthcare system crisis and the biomedical research system crisis. Can you shed light on that matter, please?
Yes. and people do not realize it until recently because the coronavirus pandemic. But this crisis has been building up for a long while. And to make it short, just one factor you can peek into the crisis is over 60% of the doctors and physicians in our healthcare system experience burnout. And about a few percent of them even get to depression and even get to the point of suicidal. This crisis is a reflection of the whole system as crisis, and they are overburdened by the transition of digitalization of the data. And that's what we're pushing for the future, but everyone is suffering from it instead of making things easier, right? So this just aggravates it. And in the recent pandemic, the whole crisis, not only just the system, the structure, and the transition, technology transition, but also in terms of research, right? And then people want to have clear guidance how to prevent this virus and how to deal with it, how to immunize, prevent it. But the scientific community have very little preparation for this, and cause a lot of confusion, not only for the general public, but even inside the hospital, inside the frontline medical healthcare. They don't know what to follow. There's so many information and none have a clear solution. And so it was a very chaotic situation. So this is just a reflection of accumulated crisis in the system.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Because I remember when I left the physical therapy world, the traditional physical therapy world, to open my private practice. That was back in 2008, January, February. The digital system, right? Like they call it EMDR, electronic medical data. I can't remember the R part. Anyway, that was happening. And people are stressing out. I remember the doctors were stressing out because they have a learning curve. All of us have a learning curve when learning something new. So if you're starting a business, that's a learning curve, right? And everyone has a different learning curve. It could be 1 month, 3 months, 3 years, 10 years, right? Everyone has a different learning curve, especially if they have a weakness in or a belief system that's negative towards speed or quantum leaps. So I noticed that if you're not so used to change, anything that's new to you that will be introduced, it could be a different way of thinking, a different concept, a different way of looking at things, a different perspective. Then you go into a shock mode and almost like, am I going to do anything? Some people freeze and some people hide. And some people move forward, right? Or some people complain about it. They feel and emote what's going on. However, the pandemic has brought us to our knees, so to speak, and shocked the whole world. It's not just isolated incident, right? It's the whole world needed to shut down. And so whatever coping mechanism we had, whether to freeze, to flee, to hide, or to do something, that's what showed up. I noticed that from 2008 and then now again, right? 2020, something showed up. So I wanted to ask you your vision of the future. Like, what do you see happening? So we know we're in chaos right now and everybody is adjusting. Some are not and some are. So we're here to help them adjust to the new reality of what would be, right? What do you see in the healthcare, in the research system? Like, why did you form this major academy? Like, why do you gather all of us? I felt like we were like the knights of the round table. Every time we have a faculty meeting, I was like, this feels like the King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table.
Literally. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's very true. What you describe is very stressful,
Yep.
and not only just trying to get used to the more complicated system, it actually increased the division, like you're separating energetically from the patient. And I remember I was reading a book about a kid describing the doctor was like the doctor was busy typing the information on the computer and his back was facing the little patient. So he was drawing a doctor's visit and it was basically drawing the back towards the patient. And the author was comparing the painting, like a very famous painting called Doctor. It was like a 18th century doctor visiting the little patients at home. He was like, all feels that concern, connecting, and compassion to the patient. He was like leaning over, look at the little patient, very concerned and listening what's going on. It's like a very bonding moment. You can just feel that.
There's the human touch, the human connection.
So,
Yep.
in terms of future, and I want to say this is things get worse before it gets better.
Yep.
So what's going to happen is we will experience more dramatic effect like the pandemic. Through this, there's a lot of crisis showing up. Otherwise, people just stuff down. They're trying to get used to it.
Yep.
But now you cannot hide it anymore because the virus gets all exposed, which is a good thing.
Right.
And we will have a lot of exposure, then gets our attention. And then we can move on to build a much better future of our healthcare system. So I just want to address why we're creating this this media is really to help physicians, medical scientists to prepare them for a different future. Just like you said, if you are familiar with something and you want to change to different, there is a stressful adjusting moment. Like you don't want to run away, say, I don't want this is too painful. But this painful moment is needed for a better change, right? So this academy is really helping the physician to prepare for the future.
Right. Yes.
We are trying to, with all these talented and gifted healers and practitioners, we're trying to make this painful process less painful and more enjoyable and more fun while we transition to the future.
Right. And it is more into alignment, right, with who we really are. Because obviously doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals out there, you have studied so many hours, right? That's the reason. I remember a client of mine who's a doctor, medical doctor. She said, I went to medicine because I want to help. I mean, if you look at the oath, right, of Hippocrates, they're there to help. But then the system started cutting their hours as far as seeing the patients, right? It became 1 hour to 10 minutes. I don't know how many minutes now because I haven't been to one for a while. And within that 10 minutes, they're supposed to also chart in the computer, which that's another challenge for them because they sometimes don't know how to use that computer. They could dictate their notes, but then again, the dictation sometimes changes their words into something else. So it's a challenge for them. And so then some of them just give up. Or like you said, they go into dis-ease themselves because they cannot allow their soul to really live that purpose. They're here to help people and heal whoever they come across with or facilitate that healing. But now they're not really doing what their soul wants them to do. And that's a challenge, right? What do you think about that, Pat, about this pandemic and all these shocking experiences, I say, that's happening? So, by the way, Pat is a nurse, right? Pat went from being a registered nurse to energy medicine. Is there such a thing, Pat? Like, what happened? Did you jump ship, or are you still a nurse?
I still carry my license. I
Okay.
worked really hard to become a registered nurse way back in the day, a
Yes.
long time ago in a land far away.
Yes.
But I've always retained my nursing license because I hold it near and dear to my heart.
Mm.
Did I jump ship? No, I'm going to tell a quick story. When I was just out of nursing school, so this was back in the 80s, early
Oh, no,
80s.
you revealed your age, Pat. Don't do that. That's okay.
I know, early 80s. And I actually had a patient who would always come into the hospital,
Mm.
and it was almost like she was a regular. She was very anorexic. She had a tumor on her breast. She
Mhm.
was just not in great shape, and she would come in and we'd do tube feedings and do all of this kind of stuff for her.
Mm.
And then she would leave. Evelyn was her name. And then she would leave, and then she'd come back in a couple months, and she'd be there for several weeks. So she was just like one of our family at the hospital.
Mhm.
Then one time she left,
Mm.
and, kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And it was probably a year later, she came back to my floor, and I thought, oh, I'm so excited to see her. I hope she's okay. And I
Mhm.
walked in, and this anorexic woman was no longer there. There was this beautiful, plump,
Oh, wow.
vibrant woman, and you literally could touch and feel the tumor coming out of her chest beforehand because she was so anorexic. And
Right.
she's like, rips open her gown, and she's like, Pat, look at, and it was gone. It was
Wow.
gone. And I'm like, what happened here? What happened? And she said, I decided that I needed to go home. I needed research. She used herbal medicine. She went and did her whole intention and everything
Mm.
that she did. Now, this was back in the early 80s. And
Wow.
she released the cancer from her body. So I've always known that we've had that ability, but I don't know. The older I get, the more I'm being drawn. We talk about our soul's purpose. And I
Yes.
find it so interesting. We're all came from the traditional medical field,
Yes.
researching, right? You coming from physical therapy, me as a registered nurse, and we're all coming together into this more holistic, beautiful approach that really does bind our mind,
Yep.
our body, and our spirit and our soul together. So.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. So obviously you're familiar with energy, and I heard that you are a Qigong teacher
Yes.
and also are you a Reiki Master as well?
No.
Okay. So you're a Qigong teacher, and I love Qigong because when I was starting in energy work, I was still a physical therapist then. I'm still a physical therapist now, except I went from licensed PT to human MRI, right? On the medical intuitive side of me, that's me. So can you share with us a little bit of your Qigong and maybe share with the viewers, right? Like right now, when everybody is having this emergency pandemic, maybe they have a low-grade anxiety or depression or stress in their body. Is there a technique about this Qigong that can help them? And how is it different than Reiki? Share with us the difference.
Okay, so Qigong, I just want to explain what is Qigong. Qi
Yep.
in Chinese, which Jume can confirm for me, means
Mhm.
energy. It is the energy source. Gong means working with, cultivating. So Qigong is basically working with our energy, cultivating that energy. How is it different than Reiki? I don't know Reiki.
I'm a Reiki master, so I could
I
share.
don't know Reiki, but I would say we're working with energy, right? But with Qigong, we're not necessarily touching people or doing anything like that. It really is it's like acupuncture without the needles is kind of how I see it.
But it's more self-help. Would you say it's a self-help
it
way?
absolutely is.
Yeah.
My master is Master Chunyi Lin, who I worked for, and I worked with their school, Energy Healing International. And basically, we believe everybody is your own healer. We all have that healer inside of us, right? That's why we're all here. And so it's like, how do we tap into that? How do we get into that inner medicine cabinet, that inner healer within us to help open up. So Qigong is from the Chinese perspective. Reiki is more from the Japanese perspective. Is that correct? And so I think there's a lot of similarities there, but Reiki has a bigger, what do I want to say, press out there. People know about Reiki more, where Qigong is still, even though it's been around for, they could think 7,000 years, it's still kind of new for a lot of people. It kind of stayed within the Chinese culture and has come to the US, and it's still fairly new model of healing. So you want me to show you a little bit?
Yes, please.
I'm going to show you just a real, this is called moving of the yin and yang. So we all have female and male masculine energies within us, the yin and the yang. And the whole idea is we want to balance our energy. Because if we have too much of some kind of energy or not enough of another, we can get sick.
Yeah.
We can get emotionally sick. We can have physical issues. We can get cancer. We can have all kinds of things. So this is just one of the core ones that we do at Spring Force Qigong, and it's moving of the yin and yang. Okay. And so basically all it is taking your right hand up by your chest, like in your middle heart area, your left hand down outside of your navel, which is called the lower dantian. It's like a little medicine cabinet down there. And we are just moving the right hand out and down very slowly as we bring the left hand up. And we're just doing this little rotation, very, very slow. And we're creating the intention that all of my energy channels are open, completely open. Any disease is gone, completely gone. My pain is gone, completely gone. And what you're doing right now is you're opening up all the energy channels in your front and back energy channel and all of the energy channels in all of your organs. And just releasing that and opening it up and balancing everything. So that's your mini Qigong session for today.
Yay. Thank you for that. That's wonderful.
So there's several different movements, and it really is about movement, meditation, sound. We use chanting and things like that. So there's just such a breath, your breath work, and for what we're dealing with here, this is all the stuff that we all know works so well when we have that anxiety, when we have that stress, and especially for our healthcare professionals out there who are dealing with this pandemic.
Yes. And I actually suggest to people as a human MRI, right, that when you're in your head and there's so many to-do lists, and I have to remind myself of that too, even us practitioners have to remind ourselves when I observe my breath, and if I'm breathing too fast or it's like short, you can kind of tell because you're either talking too fast, you can't hear the other person, right? You can't be present for the other person. If you have a lot of to-do lists or you just have a lot of things to do for the day or for the week, I have to remind myself, slow down your breath. Slow down my breath so that I can feel the oxygen and carbon dioxide move through these channels, so to speak, move through my body. And breath is free, you guys. You don't need a doctor for that or any healthcare professional, but it's a lot of the self-soothing, right? Self-healing. Obviously, when we have addictions, we want to feel good right away. Like we are designed to feel good, all of us. Yes. So when you don't feel good, you rush for sugar, you rush for a drink, you rush for whatever addiction you're into, and just observe and go, oh, I'm doing that again. And then just redirect, right? And instead of beating yourself up, because that won't work very good.
Well, part of that is in the 5-element theory in Chinese medicine, addictions arise from blockages in our liver energy system. And our liver energy is the detoxifier. And what happens is we start having confusions. We make decisions. We have poor decision-making skills when that energy is blocked. And so, and all of our systems feed upon one another. So that is a great example of, all of a sudden things are blocked. We're not detoxifying ourselves. We have things like sludging in our body through not breathing appropriately and all that good stuff. And so we need to clean it out. Yeah.
Exactly. Because we mentioned that. Thank you, Pat, for the 5 elements. It's liver, heart, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. So those organs literally support each other. And so if one is dysfunctional, the other ones tend to kind of say, wait, what's going on with you? Let me help you with that. And so they try to compensate, but it's better if it's balanced. Okay.
And emotions will also go through with that. So there are different emotions that are attached to each one of those energy systems. And so there are what we can consider like negative emotions. Like energy isn't good or bad. It's just energy, right? But we could have negative emotions. And if we're in that too long, and it seeps into us, like, you know, for the liver, if we have a lot of anger going on and we're unable to release that anger, it can affect our liver. You know, with the COVID and with all that has gone on, the grief affects our breathing system. So, yeah.
And that's what I want to ask the two of you here today. In today's world of COVID-19, how can doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals protect themselves while treating those with COVID-19 and or other flu symptoms? Because we know September, October, November, when the ember months hit, there's a little bit more rise of the flu season. It could be because they're used to it. It's a collective thought or a collective virus, I call it, in their mind that they're going to have it. Does the fear, does the negative emotions of stress, and some of them are already angry, right, and irritated that they are supposed to wear masks. How can they, the healthcare people in the front line, protect themselves while treating all these sick patients coming through? Because it's about to occur. And I'm like Dr. Zume said, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So how can we make it less painful for them? How can we make it easier for all of our frontliners?
Yeah, you mentioned the mask. It's interesting that a little mask becomes such a point of contradictory argument. So I have something for every side of it, whether you're pro-mask or anti-mask.
Okay, let's talk about that. That's awesome.
So it is true definitely for the frontline nurses and doctors. We talk about PPE, right? Personal protective equipment. And you have no choice. You have to wear them. And for people as well, you can wear them, and you can say I choose not to. There is argument. But what I want you to have is another kind of PPE. I would call it emotional PPE.
Wow.
So this is what I want everyone to put on, your emotional PPE during the next 3 months. And like both of you all mentioned, the energetic perspective of disease, right? And you also touched on emotion that's linked to our spirituality, to our energy, and to our biology, and to our immunology, to emphasize that. We need it more than ever. So during the next 3 months, actually all of us, you included, the whole Medicine Jedi faculty are going to put up 3 months of retreat and training to provide people this medical emotional PPE to prevent and cure and heal anything that can come in. Like what I said is going to be a worse curve. You can be invincible during that time.
Right.
So when you open your medical cabinet at home, you have all kinds of medicines prescribed to you. And later, whatever they're going to put on, like vaccine this, vaccine that, right? And the medicine, they're all going to be increased more and more variety in putting in your cabinet.
Mhm.
People do not have is a cabinet with all variety of emotional PPE there, like the gloves, the masks, you know, and the gowns, right? And these are the things I want people to have during the next 3 months. Okay. And so for doctors to be invincible, I just wrote a whole new book about it. Are the 12 elements that they can become invincible. But I want to talk about 3, just, you know, associated with our mission as a Medical Jedi Academy. One is how we see disease as a messenger versus an enemy to fight against. So in our traditional medicine, as scientists, we always trying to fight and cure that disease.
Right.
We do not say cure, we say kill.
That's true. Let's kill that virus.
Yeah, but actually when our disease is disease, if you separate the word, is the messenger about what's actually going on in our body, in our life. That is like the virus is the messenger to the whole Earth's experience. Right now we are experiencing it. And if you take the messenger, then you will treat it nicely. You don't fight against. You say, what is the message for me? Right? Just like your postman is delivering your mail, you don't beat the hell of it. That's why you're knocking my door, doing this, right? It's so annoying. And you see, where is my mail? And then you open the mail and read the message. And this is the thing that I want everyone to have this concept. The second is we are going from evidence-driven to data-driven. No, the other way around. We're going from data-driven to evidence-driven. So data-driven is what we're collectively see it. And even with that, we're seeing it in a very manipulated way. So when we look at the pandemic, we look at the data. But in the news, you are all seeing the bad things.
Yes.
The data, right? But that's not even a whole data. So if we want to look at the data, we have to strip all the political and the financial considerations and really see the messenger in it, right? For example, the corona. If you can have 1,000 people exposed to the same virus, right? You will find 30 people get really sick. And among the 30 people, you will see 1 people actually died. And then you will see 29 people get recovered from it.
Right.
But if you look at the data on the news, what do you see?
Just the death.
The 1 person that's
died. And it gets magnified like a balloon. And
so let's not talk about political, like it's like democratic, side or Republic side. Let's take this out. We'll just look at the data per se. So majority of people are seeing the report of the 1 person, not the 29 that recovered, not even the 970 that have nothing happen to them. Their immune system is enough to get them through the virus. So this is what I want, whether you are a medical doctor, whether you're a patient, you really look at all, if you want to look at data, you look at all the data, not just focus on 1 because of all the political, economic, issues there, right? So what happens is when they report this, that 1 become 1 million. And 29 become 29 million. And 970 become 970 million. But you still don't look at the the 29 million and the 970 million. You're looking at 1 million. It's horrible. You look at the 1 million people deaths. Everyone gets this picture of how dangerous, how horrible this virus is. Now, this imagery in your mind, and have this anticipation that if I get this virus, this is the imagery I see. That's people cannot breathe, people cannot, survive, and they're horrible. Even if they recover, they're going to have this, long-term effect. Yes, they have, but the imagery give your body a biologic stimulation. So most of us will belong to the 970 million people who will be okay with the virus. But because we constantly exposed to the media and have this imagery into our body, and psychologically and biologically and immunologically, we respond to that and make our body more susceptible to this virus. So a lot of us, because of that, moving from the 970 million people, which will be okay, and they become susceptible. Maybe we move that towards the 29 million that's going to get sick. Or even if you fear enough, even push you towards the 1 million population. Right. So what I want people to do is put on the mental and emotional PPE. Don't let that 1 million image, horrible image, get into your biological and the immunological system. That's one example of how we train people not to, get invincible is that. And particularly for the doctor, the medical school do not provide this mental PPE, technique, right? And that's why I have medical students, and they're at the front line, and they are so stressed by this. And not only when you are so stressed and when you're in fear, worrying about being infected or even bring this home to your family member, the energy between you and the patient changes.
Yeah, and you can think about this right now, what Dr. Zume, so everyone watching, just visualize, so close your eyes and just think of the fear of contracting that virus right now. And I want you to tell me if it feels contracting or expansive at all. And then, you know how Superman or Wonder Woman, like they have capes, and just think about now, like you're pushing the virus out of your system and it's gone. Like you could just literally release it. Is it contractive or expansive to you? So that's kind of like how you would feel if you feel, I got it, my body can handle it, right? Like you're invincible to this. Because look at it, any sickness we've had, we all had flus, right? We all had colds. We all had some kind of dis-ease. And if you look back at your pattern, usually you're overworked at that time. You're under a lot of stress, whether physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, psychological, right? There's a stress. So you have to be in a state that you feel good. So now, Dr. Zume, what would they do? So let's say they did the meditation at home. They feel centered, balanced, they're bubbled. They've deleted all those negative thoughts about contracting that virus. But then when they go in, they step into the hospital, the environment, right? Like we can feel energy. So everybody else, aside from us, is scared. What should they do at that time? Because the environment, if their boundaries, energetic boundaries, are not so firm and strong, what would happen is they get influenced by that at times, right? So what can they do for you, Dr. Zume and Pat? What can they do when they step into that hospital or clinic that they're treating every single COVID-19 patient out there? Is there something else?
I want them to, during our training and retreat, we will teach a lot of them to do that. But I'm just going to quickly just make one point. Is when you go to your patients in your office or hospital. When you put on your mask and put on your PPE, you also imagine there's not just a physical barrier, but it's energetic barrier. All the virus coming in will bounce off. You have to have that mental image. What you put on is 80% of energy, mental PPE, and 20% of physical PPE.
Got it.
So we will do a lot. And Pat was just mentioned the one nurse, right? Have the tumor and coming back have a totally different people. And I want most of the doctors, even though you're facing patients all the time, but I want to have you have a very different mental image about people, even though you're looking at sick people, but see them as the future, heal the patient, like Pat was just described, a glowing, healthy, people. And when you're outside the picture, surround yourself with the good news, with the healthy people and happy people to strengthen your image. So when you go to the hospital, it's easy for you to image that. So just put out that.
Awesome. Thank you for those 3 tips, Dr. Zume. Pat, do you have any other last tips?
I'm thinking of the emotions and our kidney energy is the one that gets so affected by fear. And when we think of our kidney, I mean, this is our life force. It's our vitality and our life force. So if that energy is getting blocked because of the fear, which is all of these feelings and emotions are okay emotions. There's a reason why we have all of these emotions to help protect us. But with the kidney energy, one little simple thing that you can do to help clear the kidney energy is have gratitude. So simply thinking about things that you're grateful for, 3 to 5 things every night before you go to sleep. What am I grateful for? That my PPE, that we did have enough PPE. Oh, I'm grateful that I got to see this show today and have some opportunity to really put on my emotional PPE. I'm grateful for the beautiful orange I ate that gave me some vitamin C. Just those little things can help our kidneys to be vibrant and healthy. And as Dr. Jume said, envisioning that everybody we come across is that they're whole, healthy, healed. Everything is beautiful. Because our intention creates truly where the healing begins.
Yes. And intention, for those of you watching, it's like if you've attended, remember those games that you've attended, the baseball, basketball, how when the referee sounds the whistle, right? That means everybody stop because I'm about to do something or the game is about to begin. So think of your intention as your way of starting your day. It could be in a theme form, right? So I usually have themes for my intention every month. So then I can break down my tasks every week accordingly. Otherwise, like you said, we have a job, we have work to do because we're here for a purpose, right? And if you're aligned with that soul purpose, and thank you, doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, and all of you holistic practitioners out there that are doing their job, showing up. It's a little bit more difficult lately because we have to take care of ourselves and at the same time share our gifts and talents with other people as well. But we're showing up. That's the difference, right? So when you decide to really, you become an instrument of light, your business becomes an instrument of light, that's what happens. You get transformed just because of your purpose. It's almost like God works through you and it becomes that. It's with ease, grace, and flow. So what we want to do is invite you to explore a little bit of what the MEJA, the Medicine Jedi Academy, can provide for you. So if you're a doctor, a nurse, and a healthcare professional, or even if you're a holistic practitioner, right, and you need some help with your own self, you can email. Dr. Sume is our faculty head, our head of the faculty for our group. support@hoeholisticwellness.com. And we would like to invite you. We're gonna put up a summit, right, for all of these experts in the panel to actually address certain disease and issues that you may have to help you move into this, is it the 30th, 40th, 50th, but into the future, right? In a different century that you can actually contribute not only to the planet, leave a better legacy for everyone else here, leave your light shining as we usher forward into the 21st or 30th century ahead of us. So again, email support@hoeholisticwellness.com, and we will be happy to address any questions you may have, or if there's a way for us to refer you to a specific practitioner that would help you with specific conditions, we have that too. So I want to thank Dr. Zume Zong and Pat Shivlin for gracing our show today. And thank you. I know we're going to be bringing in the other major faculties in the future. So watch out for them and their specialties, because we all bring something good to the table that you may want to partake of. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you.
I think we're still there.